Once again, we're looking at the Middle Eastern perspective, and here with me in the studio is Yitzhak Noy of Israel Radio. I'm Jay Bushinsky of CBS Radio, and we will be calling in our colleagues from Bethlehem in the West Bank and from Istanbul, Turkey, in the course of our discussion. But the first topic we'd like to deal with is the new Iranian missile. And unfortunately, there are few colleagues in Tehran who we can bring on the program unless we want to get them sentenced to long periods of solitary confinement, I suppose. But we can discuss the implications of the Segil-2, the newest missile in the Iranian inventory, and what it could portend for Israel and possibly for Eastern and even Western Europe, according to boasts voiced by Iranian officials. Yitzhak Noy, what do you have to say about the Segil-2?
Two things. First, we have to admit that even according to Israeli experts, the Iranians are advancing quite impressively in the field of rocketry. Mm-hmm. And the Segil-2 is an advanced rocket, solid fuel, which means you can launch it very, very quickly compared to liquid fuel and all the rest of it. And I spoke to some of the best experts in Israel, and they are impressed by the scientific achievements of the Iranians. This is Exhibit A, but Exhibit B is the politicians behind it. And here, I believe that the Iranians, for whatever reason, made a stupid mistake of who knows how great dimensions by declaring that the missile not only can reach Israel, which is or Tel Aviv, which is standard for the Iranians, even if the missile has a range of 100 kilometers. But in addition to that, they said it can reach certain towns and cities in Western Europe. This was a stupid, sorrowful declaration. I'll tell you why. Because, look, the intelligence agencies in Western Europe know quite well what we have been saying here on your show for a year now, namely that a missile that can be launched from the steppes of Iran all the way to Tel Aviv can easily reach Athens and Rome, and with extra efforts even Berlin and who knows, London and Paris and so on and so forth. That they know. I mean, they are not stupid. They have the maps, and they can measure the distances. But the press, the European press and the American press, very conveniently ignored the subject, as if the problem was the problem of Israel and Israel alone, namely that the Iranians are developing rockets, missiles. Tomorrow they'll be able to put on them nuclear warheads, and now Israel is threatened, and only Israel. But now, because of this declaration, and I went through the European and American press of the last week, because of this stupid declaration, now they are all horrified. All of a sudden, they discovered that they are also can be targets. And now that you have 38, who knows, maybe 40 million Muslims in Europe, and God forbid the Europeans don't treat them nicely, like the referendum in Switzerland that forbids the construction of minarets for the mosques. Then the Iranians can come out, step out, and say, "Look, you have to treat them nicely because now we have missiles and we have nuclear warheads and all the rest of it. Let them worry. Why not? I think it's a good, from the point of view of Israel, it's a very, very important and good development."
But it seems that they received a respite from the United States, whether deliberately or whether this was a gimmick or a trick for what America may have in mind, because just a few days ago, the United States announced that the newly developed bombs for attacks on subterranean installations that can penetrate deep below the surface will not become operative until the end of 2010. This gives the Iranians a breather, or unless the Americans think that they're conning them into some sort of lethargy, so when the day comes, they can take them by surprise.
I disagree with you, Jay. I think the Iranians do not need a breather because they keep not taking Obama seriously.
You mean President Obama?
And President Obama, of course. And no matter how deep the bombs can penetrate the underground complexes in Iran, you still need a commander-in-chief to make a decision. And their conclusion, the Iranians' conclusion, and I'm afraid that Saudi Arabia and Egypt and Turkey, deep in their hearts, and maybe not so deep in their hearts, feel that this is the case where the President of the United States, namely the Commander-in-Chief, can't come up with a decision, can't decide. And they simply take full advantage of it.
But do you think that now as a Nobel Prize laureate, Nobel Peace Prize, albeit, President Obama won't be able to bring himself to use the full brunt of American military power to stop the Iranians from their nuclear activities? It would be a contradiction in terms, don't you think? He's checkmate. Perhaps he would have been wiser to say, with all of the, with all of the difficulties I face, I cannot, in all honesty, accept a prize for something that I may not be able to uphold, namely peace.
Look, Jay, the whole thing is preposterous. It is ridiculous for the simple reason that on his way to Oslo, President Barack Obama had already made a decision to send additional soldiers to Afghanistan, which means more blood. And this is on the part of a man who is supposed to be a peacemaker. Mm-hmm. And you imagine that the Nobel Prize for Peace is not given to a man whose hands are saturated with blood. And when you are the President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief, according to the Constitution, you can't come out with clean hands as far as fighting. So what difference does it make whether he got the Nobel Prize, whether he didn't get the Nobel Prize? This is not a problem. The problem is that Barack Obama is hesitant.
Well, he believes in what he calls outreach. Reach out to the Iranians, dialogue. Even our colleague Roger Cohen of the New York Times just published a column in which he said the worst thing that America could do would be to confront the Iranians with military power. The Americans have to try to understand their mentality, their state of mind, and solve the problem through peaceful discussion. So President Obama is not alone in this kind of an approach towards Iran, not towards the Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, but towards Iran in spite of its nuclear ambitions.
But surely the advisors around the President of the United States have already realized that the outreach isn't working.